Although schools have been desegregated for 62 years, racism is still constructed and found within schools. There is no one-size-fits-all definition of how racism is found within schools, but it can be seen in various ways at the micro and macro levels. However, this is not a new concept. As soon as immigrants arrived in the United States, racialized ideology was present within schools. Asian Americans, Native Americans, and African Americans were all either denied education or attended segregated schools. These students were the victims of discrimination and did not receive equal opportunities. This was the result of macro-societal influences. Laws were passed to establish separate schools for students from Chinese descent, which led these students to believe that they were not capable of the same things as other children. This explicit racism created many problems and controversies during this time period. One of the main sources of racism in our current education system is found implicitly through the curriculum. It is very ironic that students aren't taught about racism, even though it's been a part of America's culture since the start. Rather than educating students about the truth, they are taught a lie about Thanksgiving, which keeps racism alive. Columbus is celebrated as a hero for finding America, but the mistreatment and violence towards Native Americans is ignored. Since the curriculum isn't teaching a real history, many students leave school thinking that racism ended when slavery did. There have also been recent instances that led Americans to believe that we have overcome racism. For example, when Barack Obama was elected president, many people thought that this was proof that we were beyond our history. However, if we look closely, institutionalized racism is present all around us. On the micro-interpersonal level, students of color are still treated differently than white students today. In the article, American Schools Are Still Racist, Government Report Finds, author Joy Razmovitz explains the racism that is still present. She writes, public school students of color get more punishment and less access to veteran teachers than their white peers, according to surveys released Friday by the U.S. Education Department. This statement explicitly states that the government is aware that racism is present in schools. This relates directly to what I witnessed in my previous practicum placement. In my first grade classroom, there were two boys that constantly caused problems together. One of these boys was white and the other was African American. When the teacher disciplined them, only one of the students would actually be punished. She would tell the white student to move his clip down, and then she would call the administrators to deal with the other student. They would pull him out of the class for about 20 minutes, and he would return to the classroom crying. Not only was he missing valuable content, but it often wasn't his fault that the students were misbehaving. After watching this mistreatment, I couldn't let this young boy continue to be punished for no reason. When I told the teacher that it wasn't usually his fault, she brushed it off and said, "He needs to be punished or he will end up in jail one day." This statement left me speechless. She was explicitly judging him off of race and setting very low expectations for him. The article written by Joy Razmovitz also explores how students have unequal access to education. Students in higher income areas have access to the most qualified teachers, numerous materials and resources, and updated campuses. The students in these schools are predominantly white, and they receive all the benefits of attending these schools. On the other hand, students in low-income areas have less experienced teachers and fewer resources. This typically includes African Americans, Hispanics, and recently immigrated students. These students are at a disadvantage and have higher chances of dropping out or getting punished. The article states, students of color get less than their fair share of access to the in-school factors that matter for achievement. It is clear that the macro-societal influences are creating unequitable access to education. I have learned about the concept of taking a colorblind approach here at UF. This was a new idea to me, and I thought it was very interesting. This concept seemed like a very appropriate way to eliminate racist ideology in the classroom. Recently, I read an interview that completely changed the way I thought about this concept. PBS interviewed a psychologist, Beverly Daniel Tatum, about her views on being colorblind. She told the story of an African-American father who was in a parent-teacher conference when the teacher stated, "I'm colorblind. I treat all the children the same, all the kids the same." This statement immediately stuck out to him because it was full of flaws. He responded, "The same as what? The same as if they were all white?" This interview was very powerful to me because I've never thought of the term colorblind in this way. What this man said is very true and gives a deeper meaning to how students of color are treated in the classroom.